What is going on, guys? Welcome to the Wednesday night live stream. Today, I have the one and only Paul and Jay on today, and we are talking about the all new Axis and Orbit pumps from AI. So, yeah, should be a fun one today. I'm sure there's lots of good questions on it. And yeah, how are you guys doing tonight?
After you, Jay. Beautiful beauty.
Yeah, man. It's exciting to be here again. I feel like the cadence of us showing up here to talk about stuff seems to be increasing. Lots of products.
I know, lots of new stuff on the horizon. I like it.
Knowing when to push pause.
How you doing? How you doing, Paul?
Doing fine. My computer decided to do these funny things. I apologize for
No
the
problem.
distractions. So I'm doing great. Here to talk about these new pumps. Talk about their control as usual. I can't get away from the control of anything. So here I am, and excited to talk about them.
Excellent. So anyone's watched my Monday video, I just did a video on the Axis, which is a super cool little pump. I'm a big fan of these, especially for all-in-ones, because that, in my experience over the many years of reefing, that's always been lacking. And they're always AC, or they're clunky, they're loud, where this thing is dead quiet, which is, the easy win to my heart, is something super quiet and controllable, so you can tweak it, which I think is really cool. So, Axis pump. One of the big, I guess, things for me too, completely just blew my mind, but the fact that how big of them, I was like, in my Nano, I could fit a 900 gallon per hour pump in the back. Like, that's how tiny these things are, which I think is really cool. So, the size is like a huge win in the controllability.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah, sure.
Jay,
You got two people here to talk. Go ahead.
Double the fun.
I was a real big fan of when someone first thought about this Axis pump idea, right? It's has a form factor, that solves a lot of solutions, and we could offer a lot of solutions that are often forgotten about. The nano tank, right? The smaller tank, and the tank that I think is becoming only increasingly more popular, right? People are more successful than ever with saltwater aquariums, right? And we're attracting more and more people. Not everyone wants to put a 90 or 100 gallon tank in their home, right? But they want technology that will fit with their life, right? And I think that this Axis pump, I love the kind of the tagline for it. It's, big pump features in pumps of all sizes, right? There's no reason why it can't have core or Vectra type of control, right? And I think that's kind of what it offers.
No, definitely. The other big thing is you can do it 1% increments. A lot of the other DC pumps that I've used, you get there's a up and down button that does 10 or 20%. So you don't really have a lot of the room to fine tune it. Where on a nano tank, if again, if it's in your bedroom or on my desk, you want it to be dead quiet, so you can tweak the flow to make sure it's not gushing over the overflow, and fine tune it just right, which is cool. And power efficiency is always a bonus as well.
Yeah, I think one of the big things too is it's it's interesting because I have a Nano on my desk here and one at work at this point, and obviously all kinds of pumps will work in those solutions, but like you said, the form factor of this particular pump type is kind of cool because it just slots perfectly in the back of those all-in-one nano tanks, and then the other thing is just it's hard to really explain how cool it is to have that level of control and functionality on your nano tank, right? Because traditionally nano tank control, and not to downplay, because there are obviously pumps out there where you have onboard control, but this having full app control that's tied into your prime or your blade lighting as well is really pretty neat, and something which I think people who are used to that in their larger setups or looking for that in their smaller setups really are going to appreciate about this particular pump.
And you have feed mode, which I appreciate because it keeps food out of your overflow, right? Seriously.
Yeah.
Those people being Devin. Devin is particularly enamored with this.
Hey.
Jay and Devin, you're both hitting on all the things, right? It's like you have your big tank, and then maybe you have some nano tanks, right? And
You want the same features.
you want them all to work the same way.
Mm-hmm.
And on your nano tank, it was just like, oh, just plug it in, and that's about all you can do. Or there'd be physical onboard controls. But as you alluded to, Devin, they didn't give you a lot of fine tuning, right? And and in terms of the coolness factor, having them connected to your phone and integrated in with the other devices that work in your tank, I think it's phenomenal that you run a single feed mode. And now, if you were to happen to have a Nero and one of these in the tank, done.
All in one.
It's not multiple buttons; it's one.
Now, if you're hardcore, this is for Paul, and have an Apex on your Nano, you can again use it with the MXM module, which is pretty cool too. Like, that's an awesome feature as well.
I mean, there is no tank too small for an Apex. We all know that this is something that I believe in, right? And I think that we do too, because these small tanks are actually by far can often be way more difficult to maintain, right? And that's because you have such a small water volume. And that water volume and the changes, the external factors or whatever that may play into the fact when things are not going the way they're supposed to, can definitely lead to the demise of that tank much more quickly than in a larger tank.
Yep.
Right. So I would argue that maybe they need that monitoring and control more, if not the same as larger tanks.
Beautiful. Chris in the chat, access order for my office tank. They are perfect for small tanks. Like, honestly, I think that is going to be hands down the most popular use. A close second would be something like reactors and UV. I'm going to put the 90 on my UV so I can take it off my return pump and then put my auto feeder back in my sump so it's all hidden. That's my future plan. But I do think like UVs, because it's controllable, right? You could dial in the flow. Same with reactors. If you're feeding your reactors, you can, if you have, you're tumbling bio pellets or GFO or something where you want that certain amount, that 1% increment gives you a lot of fine-tuned control, which I think is very valuable.
Well, Devin, how had you done that in the past? Right?
Gate valves, and you're tweaking
using
it.
a valve, and you know how it is. Like, when you're trying to turn those things, you suddenly just go way too far. Right? You're like, oh, I got to start all over again.
We were running all of our filter rollers off of S1s rather than plumbing them in. So that they were individually controllable. That was rather a bit of an overkill for running a filter roller. Right?
Hey, speaking of overkill, just to see, I could fit the 90 in my 14 gallon. That would be so ridiculous. Even the 40 is like so overkill for there. It's running it like half. I'll probably put the 20 back in. But just the fact that you can is cool.
Yeah, and I mean, like, we kind of skipped over even what the Axis offering is, right? It's 3 different pumps that fit, up to different sizes. The 20 is up to 15 to 20 gallon tanks. The 40 is up to about 40 gallon tanks, and you can guess probably what the 90 is up to. It's about up to 90 gallon tanks, and those happen to run at 90, 900, 400, and about 200 gallons per hour, which is literally kind of perfect for all of those tanks. Not to mention that most of the time that your flow, like in really small tanks, is just typically just the return pump, right? Go ahead.
I was going to say, that's another advantage, right? In a nano tank, you might not want a power head in there. So if you have a pretty strong DC pump, you don't need a power head, right? For, especially in like a Pico or a tiny tank, it's going to alleviate that and keep your tank looking cleaner. And, if you have acros and stuff, I mean, you can always add power heads as well, but it's kind of cool to have all those different options now.
Yeah.
And one of the things you said too, which is kind of interesting, is particularly on the 90, and there's always the pump bodies, are not ours per se, but the lineup exists and the potential exists to go larger. But what's really cool about these is, I mean, that 90 is still only 2.9 inches wide. I mean, you were talking about that before, but I mean, that is crazy small. Like, that will fit in, pretty much anywhere. And I don't know, I'm a big fan of the form factor because of the fact that it's linear. So instead of having the pump body that's sucking from a kind of weird place, it's almost like a extension to your tubing if you're using it as a return pump, because it just sits right there on the bottom and sucks up from the bottom. Which makes it a lot more ergonomic to fit in most spaces, which is cool. It's also cool. I mean, taking a step back, I mean, we're really excited about it from the AI brand perspective too, because AI has been pushing more over the years, has been trying to bring more of the technology into smaller tanks. The Prime with the Hydro lineup was kind of the first foray into that, and then with the Blade going down to a 12-inch size, provides exactly the same feature set the whole way through, the product line, which is cool. I mean, with the driver, right? The driver on the Axis pumps is the same as the Nero. It has the same core functionality, and also on the Orbit, which is nice as well. So if you you appreciate the simplicity of that and just being able to cycle quickly through it, if you don't want to pull out your phone and use the wireless control capability, it's right there for you as well, which is kind of cool.
Yeah, I mean, just to add on to what Jay is, we don't reinvent the wheel every time. I kind of actually love that it's the same driver body for Nero, Orbit, and Axis. The button does the same thing in all situations, right? You're not relearning how to turn on a TV because you have a new remote, right? It's very obvious, and that's something that TVs do a very good job at. You always know how to turn them on.
And if they're mounted on a controller board, it looks good if it's all matchy. Just throwing that out there.
For those of us that have a fine eye, the obsessive compulsive.
So Greg is asking, what's the max head height of these pumps? I did not test that actually, but do you guys know offhand?
Yeah. So I don't know. What, Jay, can you look up the 20? But the 90 and the 40, the 90 is about a little over 10 feet. The 40 is a little bit under 10 feet. I think the 20 is like 5.5, 6 feet.
Okay.
Yeah, it's about 5 foot, but they usually perform a little better than we advertise in terms of output.
Nice.
Yeah, the goal is to always over deliver.
No, that's a good way to be.
And like you said before, in terms of gallon per hour, the 20 is close to 200, the 40 is 400, the 90 is a little over 900. So just multiply the number by 10, and then you get the flow rating as well, which is pretty easy.
Good way to do it. No, it's pretty awesome. So, okay, so that's the Axis, which, yep, no problem, Greg. So for return pumps, reactors, UV, awesome for a lot of those situations. I'm sure there's more that I haven't thought of, like LG reactors, that type of stuff, or LG turret scrubbers that are waterfall, again, where you got to fine tune the flow. Super duper easy. So yeah,
this is, it's Devin. It's one of the first times I've actually believed like in kind of a PED loop, right? Like if they're all for discrete functions, like in reactors, you could have a flow meter on it, right, and actually turn up the flow as like the media starts to get either turn up or turn down as the media starts to get pulverized, right? And so you could actually, it's one of the few times that I'd ever probably recommend changing your flow based on the actual flow meter.
So right? have a flow sensor that tweaks your flow as it
needs. So it just turns up the flow a little bit, as it's either getting maybe the floss in there starts to get clogged, or as the media starts to get pulverized and water is moving through a little bit more quickly, all those sorts of things. We could kind of make sure it stays at that nice tumble you're looking for. That's
a cool idea.
Oh, I'm expecting a ReefDudes video from that.
We're going to have to do some advanced stuff later, Paul. It'll be good. Okay, so the other big one that came out is the Orbit, and that is a gyre style pump. Again, with all the built-in awesome flow options, which is pretty cool, and all the awesome controllability. So I guess with the gyres, so I have one on both my tanks, especially the Peninsula tank. This has actually worked out well because I have the big one at the very top of the water shooting the long end because I refuse to put pumps at the far end. And it's added like a nice level of flow to my tank. So I think it's really cool for Peninsula tanks is another option. But the controllability is awesome. So I can control it, through the Apex. Again, you control it through Mobius. My AI, you got a lot of options there. Now,
Oh, no, sorry. Finish your thought. Absolutely.
No, it's good. Go for it. What do you got?
Oh, okay. No, I think interestingly enough, I think one of the questions which has come up circulating since we launched is, why another cross flow gyre style pump, right? And I think you just kind of answered it perfectly. Is that the relationship that our parent company has with MaxSpect is from a distribution angle, has meant that we've been able to work a lot more closely with them. And the opportunity to do an AI version of, a really popular and proven pump, but bring the Aqua Illumination spin to it. That's kind of a bit of a pun there, I guess. But it's something that I think our user community, has been asking for and looking for, because like you just said, you've been using them, right? Yeah. And I know for a fact that you use Vortex and Nero pumps as well, because they provide different sorts of flow in your aquarium. And you're using you're using gyre pumps to do the same. And one of the points is on a fundamental level, the functionality of these different brands of gyre pumps, are similar. I mean, there's not really much to improve on the design. It's unique, it's interesting, and it produces a very particular type of flow. But where the difference comes in then is how you go about controlling it and what you do with that control. And that's where the synergy really fits in with the AI, the AI Ecotech, Neptune, different brands, different priorities, but this integrated controllability, which is starting to really manifest itself, is where there's a real benefit, I think, to users and the user community. And you just said it yourself, now you can just operate it using any one of the apps which you're already using to control the other equipment in your aquarium.
Yeah, no, it's true. And honestly, the controllability is like the integrations, the main reason, right? Like that's the biggest selling point. Because yes, there is other brands, it's similar, but do you want to use it with My AI? Do you want to use Mobius? Do you want to integrate it with the Apex? Like, I think that's a big deciding factor for a lot of people. And, I've been playing with them for a while, and one of them I left on Mobius, and the other one I put on the Apex, is to, experience all the different options with it. But to be able to automate stuff with feed mode and tone down the pump and all that stuff, I think the controllability is, in my mind at least, the big thing that sets it apart from the other ones.
I think that I got really excited, when I heard that we were, partnering with MaxSpec on this product and coming with a cross-flow pump. And the reason being is, I think this is a really great warm flow, right? If you only have one type of flow in your aquarium, depending on the aquarium, you're probably not hitting all the notes that you need to hit, right? To create this very chaotic, dynamic, kind of flow pattern to A, remove waste, B, get food to your coral, and C, oxygenate your water, right? And all of the pumps out there sort of bring a different piece to this puzzle. And the cross-flow gyre does that same thing. And I think it's a really great piece because it's for me, it's always a pump that I've really liked adding. In the sense that, this is kind of that overarching flow that works in my aquarium. Then I fill in with a Vortex, for that really broad flow. Then I use my Neros and my waves, right, to hit those really nice directional flows, And it's all of those pumps working together that create the most similar experience I can have to hopefully currents in the ocean, right, which are by no means typically very stagnant by any means. Not, at least not in most places that we're trying to recreate, Yeah. And then you add on top of it that even if you have an orbit and a Nero, now those just work together with a physical button inside the same ecosystem. You're using those in Mobius, great. Add in your Vortex and your orbits and your vector pump or whatever, right? And then finally, if you want to bring it all together under MXM control, right, then now you have your entire tank working together with all of those pumps. And before, I think, Devin, you could always kind of make it work.
Yeah, but it's annoying. No one wants 4 different apps. No one wants to open feed mode once, then open another app and hit that one, open another app and hit that one.
Use the 0 to 10 volts. You could do this. You could use another product to integrate it. And it was just such a headache. right?
Yeah.
And eventually it would stop working. If it's too complicated, it will break. And now it's just very simple and straightforward. And I think that's what's awesome about this.
No, agreed. I appreciate the fact that you can have a bunch of different brands and they play nice together. Like just being able to be cohesive and again be able to control stuff, pick your poison of which app you want to use, but it's you pick one and it just works, which I think is really cool.
Yeah, all of them have flavor, right? So
I think it's kind of interesting too what Paul was saying, and I think because we've all been in this now for a good bit, right? And over the years, as independent or individual companies, everyone was always pitching their particular type of water movement as the best, right? And everyone is out there saying, "Oh, you want broad but gentle. If you have wide flow, you don't need directional flow." And people are like, "Yeah, well, yeah, but then directional flow, really lets you target spots in your tank." And it's like, well, yeah, but that's not overall water turnover flow.
Yeah.
You want that kind of flow, right? And the reality of it is that the hobbyist community was like, well, yeah, we agree with all of you guys because really all of it it's really quite useful in its own way. So we're just going to have all of it, right? And you guys keep saying, what we need, right? And I think that this is, this is kind of a step in that direction, at least from our perspective as well, of this moving forward in a way that's more what what the community looks for, right, in terms of products. And I think that obviously we're talking here within an ecosystem of a bunch of products and bunch of brands which we're involved with. But I think that the community is going to start to see that expand well beyond this in the coming years as well, just because there's a desire for simplicity and for just better performance, right? And part of that is you're going to get by incorporating these different aspects that different companies and different ideas and different philosophies bring to the table. So pretty exciting.
Yep. No, definitely. All right. This is an interesting one from Greg asking about the flow specs on the orbit. So how would you classify it? I guess like the turnover or the output of it. Because I mean, it's going to be max spec, same or better, right? Because you're same pump, but you're driving it differently. So.
Yeah, that's it. And I mean, we will have flow numbers available, but realistically, from a physical product standpoint, there's kind of this chronology of size equating to flow with these sorts of pumps. And so obviously there's the Orbit 2 and a 2,000 gallon per hour cross flow pump as they're available is a pretty good comparison, as is the Orbit 4. When we're done testing, we'll have our flow numbers up and made it available as well. But performance-wise, yeah, I mean, we obviously benchmark against the other equipment to make sure that we perform as well or better in these scenarios.
Yep.
Yeah, just to add on to Jay, I mean, it's whether you're calling it a 2, a 2K, they all have a very similar form factor, right? So they all produce a similar type of flow output.
They're probably, I'm just blindly going to guess, they're probably within, that 15% of each other because it's the same physical impellers, right? It's just driven differently.
More or less.
Yeah. This is probably just a name, Rob B. How come it's a crossflow pump, not a gyre? I mean, in my mind, it's the same thing, just a different name, but.
Yeah, it actually, I mean, we know it's a gyre pump, it's a crossflow pump. I mean, that's just the type of flow that a gyre pump produces. So that's what we went with. We call all of our pumps, if you notice, centrifugal pump or peristaltic pump, or that's just the naming conventions that we use internally. I mean, obviously it's a licensed max spec product. They have the patent on this design, and they were very gracious to work with us. To bring the Orbit to market with the AI control and AI driver technologies. So,
yep.
I mean, gyre, crossflow, same thing.
Yep. I have used a bunch of them. I do say that the app experience is much better in the Mobius side compared to some of the other vendors that I've used in the past.
Yeah, and I mean, I think that's one thing that we really like to focus in on, right? It's that user experience. We are user experience, and I hope I can say this a little bit obsessed, right? We want it to be an effortless out of the box experience. So the setup, you should have no hiccups. And you shouldn't be asking questions. Everything should be very intuitive where you go. So that's the goal there. And then as you're using the pump in your everyday, again, should be intuitive. An on button is an on button, right? A mode is very clear what it's called, and there's not a lot of settings or things that you can do. You could do that if you wanted, but likely what we're recommending is going to be the right fit for you. And then finally, it's the after sales experience as well. Right. So if you do run into trouble, and if you are having an issue, right, we have a second to none customer service team, between all of our brands, right? And that's a team that supports all of our manufactured brands and our e-commerce brand, and they are customer service obsessed. And I think they would be happy to say that I would call them that, because they are very passionate about it. So when you have all of that, that's why choose AI in this situation? I think those are the three big reasons, how it distinguishes itself from the competition.
I will actually shout out to both companies on that front, because anytime I've ever contacted support, it's always been fantastic. And that is definitely, that's a good point. That is a solid differentiator.
But they probably know who you are, so we should
what though?
find out from somebody else. So
but I don't say ReefDudes. It's just Devin, right? They don't all know my real name.
Well,
People
Devin,
know ReefDudes. They don't know Devin.
To get your moniker going, get something,
make up a fake name,
create a pseudo ID, right, and slide in there and find out what they do. I'm sure you won't be disappointed.
But yeah, I know anytime I've contacted either company, they've always been great. So shout out to both you guys on that front. Okay, interesting one in the chat. I kind of partially agree, Christian. For a 4-foot long tank to drive flow down the length of it, which model of orbit would you suggest? I hate gallons per hour rating because they don't provide insight to the length that a pump can push water. That's a good point, actually, right? It doesn't. So 4-foot tank, would you recommend an Orbit 2 or an Orbit 4?
I would probably recommend for 4-foot, probably an Orbit 4, and then turn it down, quite simply because, a 4-foot tank, once it gets grown in, will have a fairly large amount of impedance to that water movement. But then I always, I'm one of those people who always goes bigger, especially if I have the option to use it at less capability and then advance it later. I've never been in a situation where a larger chainsaw has not been more useful than a smaller chainsaw. For example, if you can run there are situations, obviously. I don't climb trees. If I climb trees, I'd probably have a very different viewpoint on that. But no, that would be my recommendation. Although, realistically, you could go with the smaller with the Orbit 2 and maybe go with 1 or go with 2 down the road. Depends what other flow you have as well.
I think for the price difference, you're looking at $279 for the 2, or you're looking at $319 for the 4. I think in most situations, people are going to choose the 4. I think you start to think about exclusively the 2 and about 2.5 foot, maybe 3 foot, right? But if you're over 3 foot, what you're going to get in terms of output on the 4 is it's a no-brainer for me, right?
Yeah.
So it's also a matter of how much flow you have otherwise in the tank, right?
From the hobbyist perspective, I would probably do the 4 because, again, I agree with overkilling. And if you ever upgrade your tank later, then you have more headroom, right? Or your tank, is wall-to-wall freaking grown with acros. You can crank up the flow over time as stuff fills in. So personally, I agree with overkilling.
It's been settled. He's getting a 4.
Exactly. So 4 for the win. All right, guys. Is there any question in the chat I didn't answer? Ask me again, because I know there was some. I know there was different non-specific questions. If I scroll up and find more just generic brand questions, but if there's any specific ones to the orbiter access, let me know those. If not, then I'll answer the other ones afterwards.
I think in terms of, do we want to talk a little bit about MXM, or are we some of the things you want to go over first, Evan?
Actually, no, it's a good one. So what all can we do with MXM versus the native apps? Like, fill me in.
Right.
What's
So-
our MXM capabilities for both products?
So why at any point would you be thinking MXM, right? The reason why you think about MXM is you, have an Apex controller, right? If you don't have an Apex controller, it's a matter of getting one, right? And seeing what the benefit is. After you get an Apex, no one really says, oh man, I should have, that Apex was one of the worst things I've ever done. Most people say, I don't know why I did it sooner. But I will say that it's about integrating all of the other parts in your tank, right? So it's, if you have a return pump that is not our brand return pump, it's about turning that pump off, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's about getting your auto feeder to run. It's about making sure that when you do a feed mode and you have all those other devices or a maintenance mode or anything else, all of those things turn off on their own, and you're not going fishing around unplugging things or making sure that you are turning this power strip off or that power strip off. It all happens, in harmony together, right?
Mm-hmm.
One mode to run maintenance and all of the stuff that does maintenance the way it should do, right? The way you've set it up to do it. And then finally, it just it gives you the ability to, add in all of the kind of the cool factors, right?
Mm-hmm.
I want my flow to turn up, right, when the temperature does this, or I want my lights to do this when that happens. This just integrates into that as well. One of the great things that we're bringing here with this too is these pumps, specifically the Orbit, work really well together. Right. Mm-hmm. So if you have multiple Orbit pumps, they work really nicely together. And they do that. And this is the case for if you're running in the Apex or you're not, right? They do that by having reverse flow. Yep. Right. So you have one pump pushing forward and the other pump maybe a little bit lower, or even at the bottom of the tank, pushing in reverse, kind of kicking that flow around. Right. You can even change the fins if you know something's always going to be reverse to help it push water better in that direction.
I was actually going to ask, I haven't actually used the reverse mode yet. How much, I know the fins are not the ideal way to push. Mm-hmm. So is it, like a 30% that you get in reverse?
So so if the fins are not redirected, right, yeah, and you run it in reverse mode, you run that singularly, mm-hmm, you're going to be like, is something wrong? Because there's no flow that's helping all of that move in the right direction. The benefit of running reverse mode when it's just a single pump and you don't have the fins change direction is that you can kind of kick detritus off the pump, right? Mm-hmm. Kind of build up off the pump, that sort of thing. Yep. So once you do combine, and I don't see the point in running reverse all the time if you only have one pump. Right. Mm-hmm. But when you do have more than one pump, what can you do with it? You mm-hmm. already have flow coming maybe across the top of your tank, right? Then it comes down, or you have or if you run them vertically, right? Mm-hmm. You have the going this way. Once that flow pattern hits that pump that's running reverse, essentially it just kind of it's sort of pushes it along. Right. Mm-hmm. It's that person on the merry-go-round that just kind of comes in really quickly and makes it spin that much faster.
Yeah.
Right. And so that momentum that's already happening in your tank, reverse mode just kind of kicks that along.
Okay.
Would be my best analogy for it.
Rob B's Reef, this is a really good one, actually. It's a really good point. I could see where it might be helpful to have a battery backup situation where the MXM could drop the speed to conserve power through a program when it senses a power loss. Yeah, you could absolutely do cool stuff like that.
Absolutely that. But in terms of the battery backup, what we do with the Vortec, it does that automatically. It does that, when it is in a power loss situation, we do drop the power. Jade, you'll have to fill me in here on the AI brand. Is there something similar in that analogy?
No, I think you would have to have you would probably need an external power supply. I mean, in that case, you probably want to have the Apex controlling the system, or have it plugged into something external.
Apex will recognize there's a power outage, then boom, right? Mm-hmm. It will kick the power down on it, no problem. The modes and features that come with that is sync anti-sync on the MXM. So that was a feature that was left off at launch, right? On the MXM was sync, anti-sync.
Is it
And
coming?
that's something that's now getting added in
Okay.
For Nero and Orbit, which
Nice.
basically means if you are sync on random, both pumps are randomly going to push at the same level. If you are anti-sync on random, is one's pushing high, the other one's pushing low. It's called parent-child inside the apps. The Mobius app, they call it parent-child, or in the AI app, but it's in the Neptune world, it's called sync, anti-sync. The other, and in terms, I'm already going to head this off. Yes, Vortex. I would expect those to come soon. They aren't here just quite yet. It's not available today on Apex Fusion as we're talking, but I think the firmware release is happening tomorrow to push the sync anti-sync. Your MXM, you'll update from Mobius, and your Apex, you'll update the normal way you update your Apex with an AOS update.
Nice. Okay, this is a non-direct to those two products, but more a question for Paul. Can you ask if there's going to be an upgrade to the Fusion software that we can get widgets for the equipment running through the MXM, like the Neptune Sky has the Sunrise?
Yeah, the little widgets, like I love the Sky widget, right? And so those sorts of things, we shall see, right? It's on the feature request board for sure. It's just a matter of when that will basically get implemented, if it gets implemented. I'm always in the argument of when, never if, right? Always be thinking that we will do it, but where that is in the product timeline, I can say that it is on the whiteboard list.
Nice,
so.
Excellent. I like it. I actually do want to play with that at some point. Is doing a bunch of battery backup and have the Apex tweak everything based on power loss, and that's gonna be a future project. I like it.
It can work out with your battery situation you were working on this summer, right?
Exactly. And I'm actually have more upgrades coming, so I'm stepping up the battery backups.
Yeah.
It's advancing. More good stuff's in the works. Cheers. You're most welcome. Yeah, so for battery backup with them, if you are running it on something else, have the MXM module, and dropping down to lower speed through that would be a great way to do it if you plug it into something directly. But yeah, I believe they're 24 volts. You would need either a 24 volt source or plug it into UPS, and then you could adjust the control through the programming.
That is correct. They are 24 volt power supplies, right? I think it's the wattage is on the spec sheet, but they're very efficient in what they do, right? And as you run less and less power, there's less intensity, the less power they'll consume as well, obviously.
Yep, sounds good. All right, very random question from Greg. Why did you choose to use one magnet for the Orbit versus the two magnets used on Max Spectra Red Sea versions?
That's a really good question. I was not expecting we would get asked a question that we can't answer, but I think he wins. I think Greg wins for the evening. Probably aesthetics. There are minor design changes. It's fairly typical when we do OEM work. Some of them cosmetic, some of them may be internal, some of them may be related to things like even thickness of power cables, things like that, to make them, compliant with what we would want for our brand. The magnet, I don't believe is one of those, so I would have to say that is going to be aesthetic.
Yeah.
I think I can answer this. I think I do recall a conversation about this that I wasn't probably just giving it my full attention. I think it was for simplicity. That was the primary reason, was simplicity. You don't have two things you can lose. You only have one thing you can lose.
Wise. Question from me. Is the external magnet submersible? AK mine's already in the overflow in one of my tanks, so.
Yes.
Excellent.
As far as I know. Yeah,
perfect.
That would be my assumption.
I'm a big fan of popping the magnets and mounting on the overflow tower. So that seems to be a good location. So if the magnet's submersible, fine. That's definitely another win-win in my mind. Actually,
with anything, our brands, anything submersible involving magnets, they're coated, they're sealed, right? But it is possible over time that sealing can break down or separate. So it's just, you just have to inspect it periodically as you would any other piece of equipment.
Yeah.
But yeah, it should be fine.
Okay, perfect. Paul, question for you. Jay's Aquatics off topic. Can you ask if there will ever be an update that allows the dose to alert you of a container being empty that's being monitored by dose to mounts already?
Well, if you add a DDR to it, absolutely. It has that ability to do that. The DDR is a great solution to hold your additives in a nice, sleek acrylic solution. It's not cheap by any means. I think anyone whoever sees those or uses those are also very low to the ground. Now, I know that he's asking, I'm not using that, so why wouldn't it be possible if you could have a reservoir that I would be able to do this? I will say that it's another thing that is on the whiteboard, and it is not a matter, for me, it's always a matter of when, not a matter of if. So I would expect that you would see that in the future. It's not a feature that's available today. I know that I recently spoke about it. So
eventually. Okay, perfect. Mike the Reefer, Max. I think MaxFX jumped used the one magnet design. I don't know. What for me, one magnet's nice, right? Because you're not aligning multiple things. This one thing sucks up is good.
That was my. As soon as I heard, I was like, well, because I'd only lose one thing, not two. That's why we did it. There might be other reasons.
That's fair. On a random side note, I don't know if the Nero magnets are officially submersible as well, but I have also had those in the back of a return and an all-in-one for long term, and it's been fine. But I don't know what the official answers are.
They should be. No, you should not have any issues submersing Nero magnets.
Perfect. What's the cord length from an orbit from the pump to the controller?
I don't assume. That sounds like technical specifications right there, and I believe that is on the website.
Yeah, I don't have mine within reach.
So I would have to go look there. I don't have the website pulled up.
That's a good one that we should put on the website. I don't believe we have it. Let me see.
Long enough.
Yep.
Here's the answer. It's long enough.
Yeah, I mean, I haven't had any issues.
It's certainly one that we don't currently list that, and we will add that.
Excellent. Perfect. I know at least.
What else does this group have for us?
Yeah, what else you got? We're probably going to cut it soon because I know at least one of you guys have kids to pick up pretty quick, so we'll cut her off in a few more minutes. So any last minute questions, lay them out, throw them at us, see what we can answer. Love you, my blades. Yeah, they are awesome, David. Definitely good lights.
Love those blades.
Yep. Actually, I will find out the cord length for you right now. There's a will, there's a way.
This is good. It's a working session.
It is working.
I like it.
Instant answers, the way I like it.
The question is that, well, do you have both models there, right, Devin?
I do. And I have a 4 sitting here, so I am going to find out. Here's the lovely one magnet back design.
That's right now.
I know. I just got to take off the wire thingy. Okay, so we're going to go old school here. Usually your arm is roughly your height, so I got about roughly a 6-foot reach for reference. This is the easy way of measuring.
Purple right there for sure.
Yep. So.
Is that really true?
Yeah. Yep.
Seems plausible.
So there's 6 so far.
There are people with abnormally long arms, or short arms.
6.
So
I'm going to say 6. So that'll be about 9. I'm going to say about 10 feet. So pretty long, from 10 feet pump to controller. Not official, but roughly. That should be pretty, I'm going to say 95% accurate.
Excellent.
Devin science. There you go. Exactly. So there you go. So 9.5, 10 feet, probably 10 feet, because I would assume they would have used a roundish number. So that sounds good. All right, guys. Any other last minute questions? We all have kids now. Everyone has to worry about picking up kids and daycares and all that fun stuff. Adult life.
Wow.
Any other last minute things from you, Paul, Jay?
I'm just going to throw this out here. I think I want to do a giveaway. Can we do a giveaway, Devin? I'm just throwing this out there. I think we should give away a pump today.
Let's do it. Which one?
Yeah, I totally agree. I feel like we should reward these good people for tuning in and enjoy.
And
and enduring Paul and I.
You guys are
we
wonderful
enjoy each
guys.
other's company, but you
Yeah.
know, I mean, it would be better, right, if you had a chance to win a pump.
It
Or
would
get
be.
a pump, right?
Which pump are we going to give away?
your choice, Devin.
Are we doing an
why
axis
don't
and
you
orbit?
gotta,
What are we
you
doing?
gotta coordinate this now. We're just saying give one away. Give something away, Devin.
How about we give away one of each? An axis and an orbit? Is it doable?
I can do one of orbit, one of axis. Sure. Go
All right,
for it.
let's do it. Okay. So we'll do the axis first.
Wait, my
We're-
phone's ringing. I can't. I'm being told I can't do this. No.
Deal or no deal? Quick, do
Deal
it
or
before,
no deal.
before his phone rings again.
Okay. Random number generator according to the Google. I'm going to push it 3 times. It picked a number. So the first person in the chat to get the right number, you're going to break the chat, gets an axis, and we'll do one more for an orbit. So between 1 and 100, I'm going to have to pay attention to this, so see what it gets. Okay, so this is for the axis. Dun, dun, dun. I don't know which size it's going to be. Maybe we'll let someone pick.
You should
But-
choose.
Yeah.
Based on our conversation earlier, there's only one option to choose, and that's the full one.
If it fits. I mean, I'm honestly amazed how much of them all fit within my tank. Okay, I got to pay attention. This is scrolling fast.
Oh my gosh!
I know.
Don't go double. If we, Manny, I see multiple Mannies in here.
It's the first one I see that's correct, so.
First one you see it is.
Yep.
Never done it this way, but it's just fun.
It's hard though because I scroll so fast. I'm doing Control F and just searching. So the first one that matches my Control F. There's been so many that are like one off. Dun dun dun. The chat's just nuts.
Someone just starts going 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9.
I mean, yeah, it works. Oh. I see it. Stop scrolling. Got it. Alex Ramos, 62. So that was our Google random number. Congrats, Alex. Message me later after the stream on, I don't know, pick your poison, Facebook, Instagram, wherever. Congratulations, Alex. You, sir, just won yourself a really sweet access. Dun dun dun. Okay, we gotta wait for it to stop before we do the next one.
They're not going to stop.
Nah. The other thing is too, there's that like 30-second delay.
Yep.
Okay. All right, done. Okay, should we do the same thing? Sorry, Mo, didn't see it on the Control F, buddy. If you did. Dun dun dun. Okay, we're gonna do one more. So the second draw, this one is going to be for an orbit. Dun dun dun. And let's do, just so I'm excluding everyone from the first one, let's do a number between 100 and 200, just so I don't get the old belated answers. There you go. Okay, a number between 100 and 200. Round 2, orbit. Dun dun dun.
Then we wait.
I know. See, look at, I still see 32, 76. That's why I changed the range up. I know how you guys work.
You know these tricks.
I know. Okay, let me get my Control F ready. This is good. I don't know why I've never Control F before. It's great because it highlights it when it finds it.
Oh, there was one thing we did not mention
Do you tell?
while we're waiting for this, Devin. The 90 is not yet available. It'll be available very soon. I think it's starting to ship this week even. So,
Oh, excellent.
so if you're looking for the 90 and you can't find it anywhere, no, you aren't crazy. It is not available to as of us having this conversation.
Good to know. I actually had that question in the comments of my YouTube video. They're like,
It will
when's
be
the 90
very,
coming
very
out?
shortly. Very, very shortly.
Yeah, I think they're building it currently, right?
Nice.
Will exceed expectations.
Oh, somebody got it. One-armed reefer, 157. Congratulations, sir.
One-armed reaper.
All right.
That's a good name.
It is. Now you got one sweet pump. So yeah, buddy, message me on Facebook, Instagram, take your pick, and we will get you sorted out later. Thanks, guys, for doing the giveaway as well. That's pretty awesome.
No problem.
All right, I will release you too, as I know you got the family life and everything else, but definitely appreciate you guys coming on today and talking about some awesome new products. And congrats to One Arm Reefer and Alex. Congrats on the new prizes. Pretty awesome.
Yay.
Thank you. Yay! All right, guys, as always, enjoyed it. Hit that like button.
Thank you,
You're
Devin.
new. Subscribe. Paul, Jay, appreciate you guys coming on.
Thanks for having us, Devin. Always a pleasure.
Yeah, always a pleasure. We'll